Oracle shares rising after announcing cloud deals with both Google and OpenAI. But the company did miss on earnings and revenue in the fourth quarter here. We're taking a look at the shares moving higher pre-market by about 7% here. One of the huge things that was called out, especially during the quarter where they saw remaining performance obligation, that RPO, $98 billion up, $18 billion from the third quarter and up 44% year over year. It really does come back to this deal making that they were able to do here. And the number of people and companies that are relying on this is what they call the OCI, the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure here. And so this is the cloud services, the data centers here, and the way that they describe it is that human beings don't run this operating system or the database. Autonomous software robots do it. Larry Ellison saying that on the earnings call. And you actually got a sense of how they think about these data centers and how they think about language learning models. He went as far as to call them actually more like neural networks, if you will, because they're not just looking at language and ingesting that. They're looking across photos, video, and really having to run inferential equations on top of that. And so it's really interesting how this company is thinking about generative AI right now, and that infused into its own cloud infrastructure.
Yeah, and how big of a driver they see this being ultimately here over the next couple of years. And I think that is what the street is focusing on, and that was enough here for investors to kind of look back the weakness that Oracle presented here in its most recent quarter, even really what it's seeing here in 2024 and looking ahead to 2025 and how some of these partnerships that were announced with Google, with Microsoft, with OpenAI, how that is ultimately expected to drive the business here going forward. And JP Morgan called it out in their note, saying that the guidance here aiming for acceleration to double-digit growth here was enough here to satisfy the street. And from our recent conversations that we've had, and even the conversations I was having last week out in San Francisco at Bank of America's Global Tech Conference, there was such a focus here on enterprise spend and what exactly that is going to look like. And we talk about the next leg or the next phase or wave, whatever you want to call it, of AI, what ultimately that is going to look like, who is best positioned within that space. And it's a lot of names like an Oracle here that was mentioned just in terms of well-positioned at this point in the cycle in terms of that future adoption. And ultimately now the street even more bullish on what these partnerships with Google, what the partnership with Microsoft, what that ultimately here is going to mean for demand for their business.
Yeah, absolutely. NVIDIA, Microsoft, Google, XAI, OpenAI, Cohere, and dozens more were brought up and mentioned, names drop on the earnings call as they were talking about OCI here. So I imagine it's an acronym we're going to hear a lot more, whether I keep bringing it up or whether the company keeps talking about it one way or another.